All right, so welcome back. In our last video, we talked about our trip into the Brooklyn Cruise Terminal, getting prepared to embark on our cruise with MSC Meraviglia. I'll get it right eventually. And so now we're going to sort of pick up where we left off in that video, and we're going to go through the embarkation process. And then as we get a little further on in the video, we'll talk about what we did on the ship after we got on there and take us right up to the end of that first day. So embarkation, we had to, of course, take our carry-on bags and walk across the lot from where we parked and enter the cruise terminal. The first thing we had to do, we went through a sort of abbreviated line to go through, I guess they're customs agents, and they checked my wife's passport, and then I was traveling on a birth certificate and my driver's license, my photo ID. That went pretty quick. Got done with that. We ran our carry-on bags, we each had two, through the x-ray machines. And then after that, there was a massive line that was snaking its way through the terminal. And this was people trying to check in with MSC. And so this was my wife and I's anniversary, so we splurged on this cruise and we got one of the Aria suites. It was the Grand Aria suite, I think. And with that package, we got priority boarding. So we were actually able to go around that massive line and get into the priority boarding line. Now, this wasn't yacht club, so we didn't have a butler escorting us or anything like that. But we did get to skip that line. So we went from a line that had hundreds of people into it, or hundreds of people in it, to a line that had maybe 3 or 4 people in front of us. It felt kind of like cheating, but that was our experience. It looked pretty miserable for the people that were standing in line. I will say MSC, to their credit, did have many windows. I didn't count them, but it had to be over 10 windows open where they were checking people in. Lots of agents behind the windows. When we finally did get up there, the agent that we spoke to was very, very nice, very pleasant. And basically she went in and checked all of our information about our cruise. She looked at the paperwork that we printed out that had our embarkation, I don't know, I guess ticket or whatever you want to call it. And then she used that to pull it up on her little iPad that she has. She had some sort of little tablet. She also wanted to see our documentation, so my wife's passport, my birth certificate, and my license. This is where the passport became a big advantage, because while I got through customs pretty quickly with my birth certificate and license, she actually had to go through several additional steps for my birth certificate that she didn't have to do with my wife's passport. So it took us a little bit longer that way. And so I would highly recommend, if you can get your passport before the cruise, please do so. It'll make your life easier and it'll make their life easier. And it'll go just a little bit quicker. So she had to find a number on my birth certificate and enter it in. She had to take a picture of the birth certificate and with the driver's license sitting over it. So it just took a little bit longer. Then she went back and she created our cruise cards, handed them to us, assigned us to boarding group 4, I believe it was, and we were done with that pretty rapidly because we got to go to the priority boarding line. After that, we went back behind where all those lines were, and they were calling the boarding groups one at a time, and as they would work their way onto the ship, they'd call the next group. When we got back there, they were on boarding group 2, I believe, and we were supposed to be 4. But because we had priority boarding, again, we spoke with one of the ladies back there. She was very friendly, very nice. And she said, oh, because you have priority boarding, you could go ahead and go with boarding group 2. So we got to go on with boarding group 2. Now, our boarding time was supposed to be between 10:30 and 11. And because of the additional traffic getting into the terminal, we didn't actually enter the building until 10:30, right at the beginning of our boarding time. So considering all of that, the priority boarding really got us through there pretty rapidly. And I didn't look at the time, but we started working our way up the ramp pretty quick. It didn't take very long for us to get to that point. It's a little trying to get out of the rain. Is it dripping on you? Yeah?
Welcome aboard, please go straight. Thank you, welcome.
So our first stop once we got on board was over to this little kiosk to verify that our credit card was linked to our cruise cards.
Thank you. Thank you. Night. Thank you. Hi. Morning. Can I help you?
Is this where we make reservations for specialty dining?
For the specialty dining, sir, you see in the front, there's a streamer like this one. That's for the specialty restaurant. This one is for the complimentary restaurant.
Oh, okay.
Can I see your card? Do you know where your restaurant is?
Yeah, we're in this camera.
Panorama and yes. You're in my choice. For my choice, you can come from 6 to 9 o'clock anytime you want. The Panorama restaurant is all the way to the back. So once you come, just don't make line here, just pass. And also there's a line, just pass by this. You have a special place for the Panorama, for the my choice.
Okay.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
ma'am.
Just go straight all the way to the front.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Now, normally I wouldn't record someone like this, but she was so polite and friendly, and this is exactly how the crew treated us throughout the entire cruise. They were exemplary, just really fantastic people and always willing to help. So I just thought she was such a great example of that. So from this point, instead of going to try and schedule our specialty dining, we decided to try and find our room. Now, they didn't tell us that we could go to our room, but they didn't necessarily tell us that we couldn't either. So we decided we were just going to go ahead and go try to find it and see what would happen. So we wandered our way back down to the opposite end of the ship, and this gave us a good opportunity to check out the Galleria and that cool fancy ceiling they've got up in there. And we got down to the elevators on the other end, and we grabbed an elevator to deck 12. I cut that part of it out of there because there was another couple in there with us, and didn't really want to have them on video without their permission. So once we got off the elevator, we kind of wandered around in circles like a couple of doofuses, trying to figure out how the heck we would get to our rooms. And there were signs all over the place with arrows, but it didn't look like there was any way to get to the room. And we even went up the stairs at one point. Obviously, that's going to take us to another deck where our room would be. Then my wife noticed that, hey, guess what? There's a door closed over here. Let's open that up and see what's back in there. And sure enough, those were the hallways to the rooms. And we started making our way down that hallway, and my wife got past the crew, but I got caught messing around with the handle on my suitcase. And she was very polite and just let us know that, hey, you guys aren't supposed to be back here yet. And so she asked us to return at around 1 o'clock, and she said that they would actually announce it when we were allowed to go back to our rooms. So we headed back on out of there again. Up on deck 15, we found a bar and got some tasty beverages. And while we were there, we got to witness some of the bunkering operation as the ship was getting fueled. Then we made our way aft to deck 18, where we found another bar and had a couple of more tasty beverages. And that's where I shot this picture of the Statue of Liberty. And my wife took a picture of me posing with some of the artwork. It's a pretty good likeness, I think. Then we made our way back down to the atrium, where we took the obligatory crystal staircase and do-re-mi pictures. We did eventually make our way back down to Ola Taco, where we were able to go ahead and schedule our specialty dining for the week. And at this point, we were finally able to make our way to our cabin, where our baggage was waiting. We're able to start unpacking and get this quick view from the balcony, which for our room was pretty massive and includes a hot tub. So we got a nice view of the cruise terminal and our rainy balcony. Shortly after this, we did go through the safety video. And on MSC, you watch the safety video, and then you place a call and give a code to the other end of the line, and then you make your way to your muster station and check in there. After all of that, we made our way back up to our cabin, continued to unpack, and get ready for sailing away from the terminal. We're moving, yeah. Oh, we're pulling away. Take a look.
Crack this?
Huh?
You gonna crack this?
Is that what we're supposed to do?
If you want to. You don't have to.
Do it. Do it on video. Do it, baby. Oh, yeah.
The problem is my nails are.
Well, here, you video me, and I'll do it.
Yeah.
You can video outside, too, if you want. If their screen goes to sleep, you just tap it. Holy crap, this thing is ridiculous. Am I in frame? Yay!
It's moving, like we're moving.
I got more than you.
I had more than you.
He's got it in reverse gear, yo. Like, I can't believe how fast it's going backwards. Like, holy crap. Cling. It's got to be better than that. Once we were truly underway, I went and grabbed the camera and set it up for a time lapse and affixed it to the rail of our balcony, so you get a nice view off the front of the ship as we leave New York. And yeah, it's a little rainy and yucky out, but it was still fun, and we just hung out on the balcony until we got past the bridge over the Verrazano Narrows. So enjoy. So while that's playing, let's just kind of summarize the day up to this point, and then afterwards we'll kind of wrap up with how we closed out the evening. So yeah, the traffic leading up into the terminal was not pleasant, and clearly the weather wasn't the best either. And maybe it's because it was my first cruise. It was my wife's second cruise, and she hadn't been on one in a very, very long time, since she was like a teenager. So it was really a new experience for both of us, and the weather and the traffic couldn't dampen our spirits. It was an absolute blast. Totally enjoyed our day. Our experience was really pretty good. Again, we did have that priority boarding, and I think that made a huge difference. And if we had waited in that line, we probably wouldn't have been quite so pleased with the day. But yeah, overall, we were in such a great mood by the end of the day. It was just absolutely fantastic. So we actually got out of the harbor. We went down and talked to guest services to get some issues with our drink package and Wi-Fi straightened out. And while we were down there, we caught this video of an MSC container ship passing us in the opposite direction, and that seemed apropos, so I chucked it in here. Then we went back up to the room, got showered and dressed up, and went on down to the Panorama restaurant for dinner, which was excellent. Now, thus far, the seas were extremely mild, and so after dinner, we shot this video, and you can see you got a little bit of motion of the ocean there in the main pool on deck 15, but nothing particularly bad. This would change as the next day wore on. We ended up wrapping up the evening with some drinks in the Sky Lounge, and didn't get any footage of that. So, yeah, that was the end of a fantastic day. Look forward to the next video when I'll talk about those rough seas a little bit more and show you some footage.